So if you have a technical support issue, just send it to support@geniusbiofeedback.com. And that's the place where we can take care of that for you. Support@geniusbiofeedback.com. Yeah, there we go. All right, nice. And all right, our website here is geniusbiofeedback.com. If you ever want us to help you with something, you need support, you want to go to geniusbiofeedback.com. That's the very best way to find support. So let's just go over a few things related to the website, and then we'll talk about detox strategies for your genius, and we'll also take your questions. So please put your questions into the chat. So questions would be things like, how do I use the synergistics, or how do I use the general overview? Those are the things that we're looking for. We'd also like to have a volunteer. So if you'd like to volunteer for today to be part of our class today, please go ahead and put your date of birth, and we will do a scan on you. So if you feel like you need some frequencies, need some energy, go ahead and volunteer so that you can be part of our class today. I'll analyze the aura. I'll go through the detox strategies and anything that you would like to review or look at. Now, one thing on geniusbiofeedback.com I want to point out is if you go to the Learn menu, you can go to our reinstall link. So I want to make really, really clear that this is for our Apple users. This is for our Apple users. If you use the Genius on an Apple platform, that being an iPhone, an iPad, maybe you even have a Mac that has an M1 chip in it, you need to do an annual update. So Apple requires you to do an annual update. The very best way to do this really is just to completely delete the icon on your iPad or iPhone, completely delete it, and then reinstall it. So you can go to this Apple link. It's going to say it doesn't work on this device, but that's okay. And so what you're going to do is you're going to see this. Now, if you're still on the old version, you want to stick to 16.9.7, you just go right here and you find 16.9.7, you download it from here. If you want to go to the new version, which has also been called our beta version, you can download with 16.5.7. Why is that a lower version? 16.9, 16. I guess this is like 16.9. And this is like 16.57. I have no idea. Anyway, this is the more updated version here. And so if you want all the new features, you would go here. If you're deleting and reinstalling, you want to stick with the original version, you can go here. It's completely up to you. A lot of the bugs that we had when we first came out with the new version, most of them have really been resolved, and you can rely on a stable experience of using your Genius. So if this is a good time for you and you want to go to that new version, you could go ahead. But every single Apple user, you should just delete that icon, get this link, and then reinstall. So I want to show you something that would really be a good idea to bookmark. Make sure you bookmark geniusbiofeedback.com. Go to the Learn menu, and then you come down here to the reinstall links. And so I know many of you look into the App Store and it's like, oh, it's confusing, I can't find it. So this is where you would find the link. All right, there we go. So this is where you would find that link. Okay, just going to a few things that we're looking at just for the moment. All right, fantastic. Okay, so now I want to show you something else at geniusbiofeedback.com. If you go to the Learn menu and you go to our blog. So if you go to our blog here, you can find the guides for today. We have a detox process guide. So this would be a detoxification process that you can do on your Genius. So let's go ahead and we could download that. And there's another document here. So let's go back. And right here, we could also, let's see what this one is. If it's what did we do with this particular guide? Okay, and this is an ebook that you can download. These ebooks are great for sharing with people who are new to the Genius, and they take people through a pictorial guide of how to use the Genius, what to do, how to get set up. So this is great to just share with friends who might be interested in the Genius, and this is how they can get started. Okay, so that's that with the blog. And there was another thing on the blog here that I really want to thank Lisa for. Lisa checking in from Canada. She had a great experience on Tuesday. We have Terahertz Tuesday. There's Taco Tuesday. Now there's Terahertz Tuesday. And on Tuesdays, we train people about the Terahertz technology. And so we have the core box and we have the wand that we train people with. And so you can join us whether you just got your box, you got your wand, or you're interested in learning more about what it is, or maybe you got it somewhere else. You just want to come hang out with us. We talk a lot about the lymphatic system, different kidney points, the circular motion, horizontal motion, vertical motion, what the terahertz is doing. And now we have a testimonial, really nice testimonial, which is on the blog. And so Lisa sent that in, and her client, might be your husband or a close friend there. Background, today is only the third day I've had the terahertz box. I use the warm air, low fan setting and use the red light because there is red and blue light on the terahertz. A 54-year-old male with left shoulder pain. His pain was solid. She describes the points that she did. She worked on the palms. She worked on the inner elbows that we talked about in the most recent training, the feet. We talked about kidney 1 point, and the pain went from an 8 out of a 10 to a 2 out of a 10. So this was really exciting. And then she took his before and after aura picture, which is a great idea. To what you do is you re-record the voice and the picture before, and then then record it after, and then just do a fresh take on the aura. So that's looking really good. So if you want to know more about terahertz technology, come hang out with us during the terahertz training. And I'm going to show you the events calendar in just one moment. Okay. Beth, you want to be our volunteer today? That would be great. So check your microphone and check your camera if you want to join us, and please do join us. Now, what we really need from everybody who's here is we need your questions. So think about something when you're going to do something on the Genius and you want to do it. What questions do you have? I don't know if, let's see, if some of our awesome question askers from last week, we had people who asked multiple questions. I guess we really need you back this week. Come and ask your questions about the Genius, even if they're the most basic or the most advanced questions, I will try to answer them. Now, I want to call your attention also to our events page. So this is a really great page to check back often and see what we're doing. For example, today, here's our training today. You can register for that. You could share this events page with other people. We also have our terahertz training on Tuesday. Business members, actually, there is no business call. This should be changed. It's going to be on the 8th. Apologies for that. If you need support for your business, check out our business membership. And then we have our Friday podcast, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. So check out our events page and bookmark that and check back there often, because you'll know what we're doing. And we're going to have some new programs coming up soon. We actually had a great podcast on Thursday, which you can see on our Rumble channel. Go to rumble.com and look up Genius Biofeedback. And I want to thank Karen McDonald so much. We had a wonderful conversation with her and Greg Prescott, all about new and developing events on planet Earth. And what do we have coming up? What can we hope for? What should we be aware of? And Greg was just such a wonderful guest. And we love what he's doing at in5d.com and hope to do more projects with him. Okay, we're going to be talking about detox. Remember, I really need your questions. Come on, Team Genius. Let's get your questions in here. So you're going to your Genius and you're like, I don't know how to do this. I wish I knew how to do this. So please put your questions in the chat. It makes for a great session when we have your questions. I want you to show me this. I want you to show me the synergistics. I want you to show me the general overview. What is it that you need to know more about? No question is off limits. Okay. So today, I don't know why this is Monday. I'm so sorry. This is from earlier in the summer. We're at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But next week, so we're always at 10 o'clock. I apologize for the slide. And we're going to be next week, we're going to be talking about blood sugar and diabetes. Blood sugar and diabetes. As I said, on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Pacific, and it's 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we talk about terahertz technology. Go to our events page at geniusbiofeedback.com to register for that. Then our podcast, what we're going to do, since we don't have a particular guest on the podcast, but Karen McDonald will be joining me, and we're going to talk all about the V Clear and V Shed series. And I know that Karen has her own thoughts about snake venom and so forth. We can hear from her. But Rachel, thank you for this question and this request. We're going to talk more about the V Shed and V Clear. And so that is clearing strategies for people who have had the J, and you fill in the rest since we're on YouTube Live, the inoculation, the shot in the arm, that type of thing. So V Clear and V Shed, we're going to talk all about the energetic clearing that you can do with the Genius. Okay, so you can use your Genius to go side by side with a detox or a digestive cleanse. Now, this is something that's good to do with the seasons. So in the springtime and in the fall are the most natural times to do a detox, but after Christmas and the holidays, the new year is not a bad time to start a detox, but you should do a detox at least a couple times during the year. And it's as much a digestive cleanse and a time to come back to really good eating. You know, we can get away from that more or less, and it's nice to come back to it. So digestive cleanse and detox are very much intertwined. The moment that you take stress off of your digestive system, you reflexively begin to detox. And the body spends a whole bunch of energy on digesting food and detoxifying any unneeded elements, such as pesticides, or that might be in fruits and vegetables, or hormones that might be in chicken or dairy or red meat, you know, all of these things that come in. Also, you're breathing things throughout the day. So there might be something in, maybe move into a new home, and there might be solvents from the paint, or there might be off-gassing from the carpeting. And so those things come into your body and they settle in, they come in through the lungs, they go to the bloodstream freaks out. Oh my gosh, these are toxic elements. And if it can't eliminate them immediately through the bowels, through the bladder, whatever it might be, gets migrated into the fat tissue. And it sits there in the adipose tissue, and that's where we tend to build up toxins over time in a process called bioaccumulation. And bioaccumulation was first written about by Rachel Carson in Silent Spring, and she did a heck of a job showing how especially the bioaccumulation of xenoestrogens and hormones can affect fertility. And that's why it was Silent Spring, because it affected the birds and the wildlife. Because of what was going on in the environment, but it affects us as human beings. So there are things that we can do about it. We can change our diet. And the moment we stop eating or take a break from very heavy foods, the body goes into a cleansing mode. The body goes into a housekeeping mode. And what it does is it tries to clear out the toxins that may be stored in the fat tissue or the bloodstream. And it can clear that out through sweating, so through the skin. It could clear it out through the bowels. So getting a lot more fiber in your diet can even help to clear heavy metals out of the diet. And then actually sweating and being in the sauna helps to mobilize adipose tissue. So you start to, as you sweat, you are literally moving toxins out of your body. And there's been studies that shown that you can move also heavy metals out through the sweat as well as other toxins. Breathing, you can eliminate a lot of toxins from your body. Something like 60% of toxins can be excreted through your lungs. That's crazy. Most people don't breathe properly. So you doing some yogic breathing or proper breathing can be extremely helpful. Your kidneys, drinking more water, hydrating better. And then you can use strategic herbs and nutritional supplements in order to help the body to better detoxify. When we detoxify, we're not really detoxing specifically the body and the liver are more created to do something called depuration, which is to make very toxic substances more water soluble. So when you have your dandelion, your burdock, your milk thistle, these are very rich in glutathione, and they help to upregulate the enzyme P450 system of the liver in order to take your solvents. Let's say you went to the gas station, you pumped some gas, and you would have breathed in some of the gas solvents. That's benzene. When the benzene goes into your body, it settles into your bloodstream and into your fat tissue. But if you take some glutathione, that can help the liver system to detoxify that or depurate it, to make it from a very toxic substance to a water-soluble substance that could be eliminated, for example, by the kidneys. So what we want to do is clean up the diet and get some good herbs into the body, as well as antioxidants. So some of the herbs, as I mentioned, would be dandelion or burdock, and these are known as cholagogues. And these cholagogues help the gallbladder to be more smooth, to be more able to move, to be more not viscous, but even more liquidy, so they act better. Your bile comes from your gallbladder, and it is an integral part of moving toxins out of the body, because the liver excretes toxins in the bile. And so you want that bile, you want to be able to move that out of the body. So a combination of good herbs, which are cholagogues, which help the bile to be more liquidy, to be more healthy, to move better so you don't build up stones. So the dandelion and the burdock work in combination with good fiber. I can't say enough about having enough fiber in your diet in order to detoxify. So you may know that some people use psyllium and different types of soluble or insoluble fiber during a detox. It's very, very important. And once again, through the bowels, you can, if you're moving the bowels, you can eliminate a lot of mercury, and mercury comes in through fish that people consume. The mercury got into the fish from different factory off-gassing, and also fish are filled with something called PCBs, which also came from factory processing and ended up in our oceans. And then the fish started to consume that, and then it built up and built up and built up across the food chain, from smaller fish to larger fish. So if you're eating very large fish up the food chain, you will be accumulating more mercury. And we know people have accumulated mercury in their teeth as well. So when you're using the Genius, you want to use panels like organs, glands, today's stress, body systems. We're going to look at some of the libraries associated with detox, like liver libraries, kidney libraries, lymphatic libraries, and then specific detox libraries that we have created. And there's also emotional detox. So actually, when you detox the body, you will also feel that there's an emotional purge. Emotions and the body, you know, they go hand in hand. There's no separation of mind, body, and spirit. But you may want to more directly look at an emotional detox as part of the physical detox. So as you're doing a detox, make sure you address the emotional aspect. You know, these toxins are stored and stuck in the body, and as they become liberated and the emunctories, the eliminative organs and channels of the body become more open, it's very likely you're going to feel a sense of release. You're going to feel more like these emotional channels are now opening, and there may be some type of an emotional purge that's going to be associated with that. So use your flower essences. We also have the Alaskan flower essences, the Australian bush flower essences. We have South African flower essences, and we also have living orchid, the orchid essences. So you can check those out on the website at geniusbiofeedback.com. So you want to look at also doing an emotional detox. So with that in mind, we're going to just start there. And then I'm going to go through the process with the volunteer. So we said Beth was going to volunteer, and then I'm going to read some of your questions. So Beth, I'm so excited that you're going to join us and volunteer today. And let's go ahead and invite you up here as one of our panelists. So you'll see that you're invited up, and then we're going to record your voice. We're also going to get to your questions, so please keep those questions coming. I love your questions, and all of your questions benefit the entire group, which is great. So thank you for your excellent questions. We really, really greatly appreciate them. Okay. And Beth, we're not seeing you completely. But for the most part, yeah, that's a little bit better. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
Good. Where are you joining us from?
I am in New Jersey.
That's wonderful. What's the weather like in New Jersey today?
We actually are pretty sunny and pretty warm for New Jersey at this time of year, so not bad.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. So, how long has it been since you got your Genius?
I got it in the fall, so maybe October.
Wonderful. And how anything that you've noticed or observed or been able to achieve since you got your Genius?
Yeah, I really wanted it for myself for sleep. And so I think that my sleep has improved. I use it more than one time a day, but I use it at night for my sleep. And I think my sleep has improved.
That is absolutely wonderful. That's great to hear. And since your sleep has improved, are you working on anything else?
Yes. So for some reason, I have gained like 20 pounds last year. And I do think it's actually related to toxins. So I was excited to volunteer. I mean, I don't
Yes.
know what it's related to exactly. I have a naturopathic appointment and a doctor's appointment scheduled in February and March, but it might be thyroid, but something is happening. It might be menopause.
I was going to say, just based because you sent over your birthday, we didn't share that with the group, but I was thinking perimenopause.
Yeah.
Not maybe, but yeah, a little, because you're a little bit, sort of on the cusp there.
No,
that's very, very typical.
I started at 43. So.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
It's, really, really possible. And but we're going to get to the bottom of that. Let's do some testing. Now, when you've been testing yourself, have you noticed anything related to that?
I noticed some of the what comes up a lot? The adrenals come up a lot.
Yes, that's so common too. In fact, did you know, as naturopathic doctors, one of the things we talk about the most is that we always think it's reproductive hormonal issues, but the core, especially around the time of menopause, is more cortisol-based adrenal issues. Because think about what you've done for the past, decade, right? So many things in your career, family, and women are real burnt out by the time that sort of these changes are starting to take place, and they have a huge influence on hormones, but the root cause may be in adrenals.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, very, very exciting. Well, I have the Genius here and I have you all set up in my Genius. Woohoo. So I'm going to get and record your voice. So you probably know what to say on the recording. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So I will start recording you in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
Elizabeth Aiken, AEIOU. I release anything that is not needed in my body, emotional, chemical, physical, any weight. AEIOU.
Fabulous. That was great. I love the concept of detox being associated with releasing that which is no longer needed. That's wonderful.
Get rid of it.
Great. Yes. You're so smart. Okay. And then we're going to get your picture in just a moment here. So that's good. Well, you've made a lot of progress and learned a lot in the short time that you've had the Genius. That's so exciting.
And I love these classes on Monday. I always get a tidbit. So thank you for having them.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad you're able to join us. Okay, so if you'd like to smile for your picture. Wonderful. That was so perfect. That was great. All right, so we're going to begin your analysis and then we'll have some fun. Well, we have so many exciting things to look at here. It's going to be great fun looking at this because we're going to be able to look at things like adrenals. We'll look at toxins. We'll look at hormones. And is there anything about toxic exposure that you think that we should look at in particular? Any like mercury fillings, or do you think you're exposed to any toxins?
I've had mercury removed, but I do take some medicines that I think probably have toxins in them.
Okay, so that's good to know. So maybe some milk thistle. Milk thistle, what milk thistle does is it builds up glutathione in the body. It's a wonderful antioxidant. And you can actually take milk thistle on a daily basis. It's great because milk thistle helps with previous toxins you were exposed to, as well as toxins you might be exposed to. So if you're continuing to take those medications, you may want to get some, maybe a milk thistle tincture or a capsule and take it on a daily basis.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Just a little tidbit, not medical advice, as they say, but something that you can look into and see if it fits for you. All right. So what I'm going to do is, oh, what is going on with that? See if it's behaving now. All right. Now, anything else that you want me to focus? Oh, you're already set and ready. Beth, you're perfect. You're good. You're already like setting that's what I was going to do next is, if there's anything else, you can bring yourself back on. Is there anything else that you want me to look at or focus on, or is this pretty much good for today?
I think this is, I think this is great. I feel good about this.
Just in the last couple of years, what has the last couple of years meant for you? Has it been, well, easy breezy, a little stressful, or very stressful?
Very stressful.
Okay, the reason I got you before you disappeared there is just because I saw, did you see these blues that started to come up here?
No, now I do.
Yeah, so right off the bat, I wanted to ask you, because this looks like a lot of depletion. Does that feel true for you?
Yeah, it feels better now, but
good.
It's been a rough 3 years, that's for sure.
One of the most interesting things I learned as a naturopath is when people are very low cortisol, that leads to sleep disorders because they're literally too tired to sleep. And so it's very nice to hear that some of your sleep has been restored, and that may be evidence that some of your adrenal function is starting to be restored by the frequencies that you're running and maybe some of the practices that you're doing.
Yeah, great.
I love it. Okay, well, we have a lot to look into, so I'll come back and visit with you shortly. All right, perfect. Okay, you're good at that webinar stuff, Beth. Thank you so much. Okay, we have lots of juicy questions to answer. So the very first thing is, let's look at her aura. Let's see what's going on there. And then we're going to get to your questions. We've got questions in the Q&A. We've got comments in the chat. I love it. You can keep all of your questions coming, and I will go through them one by one. So wonderful. So somebody who's sort of in that somewhere between 45 and 50, you're going to be thinking about perimenopause, menopause, changing hormones. A lot of the typical things that are happening are that progesterone is getting low, estrogen is getting low, but not at the same pace. Oh my goodness gracious, I just turned off the phone. Estrogen is getting low, but not at the same pace of progesterone. That drop in progesterone can lead to just really not feeling like yourself, sometimes mood changes, and a little bit of things like chaste tree berry would be really good, or evening primrose oil could be good. There's, borage is another one. Borage is a great one, these are precursors to progesterone. Or you could just do there's obviously progesterone cream available online. So that can just make you feel better overall. And there's often a little bit of women's physiological levels of testosterone level off as well. So there's that, and you can use an herb called tribulus, if you like, in order to support the physiological levels for women. And of course, for any hot flashes, you can use black cohosh is a great one. And that, so you can there's actually some great menopausal formulations. And if you look at Wise Woman Herbals, she has a great one. Another one I was thinking of is red raspberry or dong quai. And there's a formulation from Wise Woman Herbals called Menocaps, I think. And that's a great formulation that anybody can avail themselves. So if you don't want to take, or bioidenticals are not available in your area, you don't have a naturopath, like herbal medicine is great too. And those Menocaps are wonderful a lot of the ones that are herbal medicine for menopause also addresses the liver and the lymphatics and can be really, really helpful. So this is a beautiful aura coming through, very heart-centered. You see that wonderful ring around here. There is a little fuzziness on the top, but she's talked about a lot of issues that suggest she might be sort of, all that energy is not being contained, but could be contained better over time. And a beautiful purple pink, lots of crown chakra, lots of opening in the crown chakra. And then in the center, we have sort of this green yellow. It's almost like a pea green, like a light pea green with a little bit of light edges here. And so it does suggest to me that, yes, like digestive cleanse is sort of being requested here. Well, let's take a picture of it, and then we'll see. I just took a screenshot of it. We'll see how it looks as we move forward. Thank you for joining us today for Detox Strategies and being part of our Genius community. Let's go ahead and take a look at today's stress. So immune, cardiovascular, environmental, and there is the adrenal. So that's very interesting. Now, cardiovascular, that doesn't mean that that person has a cardiovascular issue per se. It could mean, hey, they were nervous and, busy morning. So they could just be frenetic. That's one thing, right? Racing heartbeat and all of that type of thing. It could be that they need to get more exercise. It could mean a lot of things going on that is causing the cardiovascular issue. In the wintertime, we spend a lot more time indoors, things like that. So that could be why it's coming up. Environmental and immune stress. So again, the winter, one of the biggest things that they say about the that came up in 2020 is that probably a lot of things could have been made better through the supplementation of vitamin D. That vitamin D is such a need and such an impact on the immune system. And during the winter time in those northern latitudes, we're just not getting even nearly enough sunshine. Now, a very good form of vitamin D you should look into and research yourself is Biotics. The company Biotics makes a liquid, I think it's called D-emulsion. And what I experienced as a naturopath looking into this is that when my patients took vitamin D, the D-emulsion, they had the largest and fastest increase on their blood work in vitamin D levels. So I really like it for that reason, but look and research it and ask your herbalist or nutritionist if you want to about that one. Okay, we've got degeneration, bacteria, and emotional. So for now, I'm just going to observe what's coming up. We also have infections, sensitivities, brain, and I go all the way up to 200, often the lymphatic. So now I'm just observing. I'm not ready to put pieces together yet. But then we also have the body systems. So it tells us skeletal. Okay, that could be something you worked out a lot, or maybe you're healing from something, or it could be related to bone density. Again, not totally clear at the moment. And then let's look at the organs. This is sort of related to basic process number 1. You can learn about that on our website at geniusbiofeedback.com. And there's a menu called under Learn, which is Learn the Genius and Genius Basics, where we go through these basic processes on a screen recording. So the lungs and the eyes and the stomach, we've got a lot of different things coming through. We haven't seen a lot of patterns yet. Now in digestion, this could be most related. This is one you definitely want to use for detox, is use this digestive panel. Liver, okay? Liver is going to be a really important part of processing those toxins. Flora, if your gut flora is good, then it's going to help you to support not having a lot of toxins in your body. If your gut flora is distressed because you took antibiotics, or if you drink alcohol, you disrupt the flora, or if you eat a lot of junk food, you disrupt the flora. So if that's out of balance, that affects your hormones, that affects your neurotransmitters, it affects your immune system. So definitely getting maybe a really good probiotic for maybe 3 months or 6 months, taking it on a daily basis. Then we've got enzymes. Enzymes helps to break down the food, and it can also help to break down toxins, and it can help to break down any metabolic waste that's around. So it sounds like enzymes might be a good supplement. And then the gallbladder, remember the gallbladder carries out that bile, and the bile carries around a lot of toxins. So all of this is good information showing that very likely a detox is in order and would be a very, very positive thing to do. So let's keep looking. Now, let's look at some of the reds or blues that are not related to basic process number 1. So I go through basic process number 1. Then I might look at some of the reds and blues that come up. And then I'm going to take my testing over to custom libraries where I can look at the libraries that I really think are relevant to the case, like hormones, adrenals, detox, lymphatic, liver, and kidney. So now I see here meridians. We talked about the meridians last time. Whoa, we've got the pericardium meridian and the bladder meridian. Look how low that pericardium meridian is. For those of you who have not been a Genius practitioner for a long time, you know, blues are very significant. When they're low, that indicates that a very small amount of energy is moving through that particular area. So a very small amount of energy is moving through the pericardium meridian. The pericardium is a place where it's like an emotional buffer. And so if we're at the pericardium, we may be ready for quite a big emotional release or something emotional to process. And so that's very interesting that the pericardium is coming up, because we also did see the cardiovascular. So this may be an emotional heart release that we're looking at. So we've got pericardium and we've got the bladder meridian, which is the opposite of the kidney meridian, which could be connected. Oh, there's the kidney meridian right there, just right on top. So 217, I wouldn't rule that out. If I see 217 and 93 and they're paired meridians, I would think about them very seriously. The kidney meridian is always going to be related to that adrenal function of sort of burning yourself out, burning the candle at both ends. So let's look at the kidney meridian itself, and let's pick up those reds and blues on there. Now, what you could do is you could write down some of these points. If you have the terahertz wand, whether you got it from us or somewhere else, or if you have the core box, then you can start to run some of these frequencies on these particular points. So you can take note of where they are. So you can look at, okay, kidney 2, that's at 0.757. And so now I'm going to find out, I'm going to figure out where kidney point number 2 is. And maybe I'm going to run some terahertz frequencies for 30 seconds or for a minute on those particular points. There they are, kidney 2. So all of these lower kidney points are the lower numbered kidney points can be a little confusing. That looks like a 12, but this is kidney 2, kidney 3. And so they're all around the foot area, which is interesting. And then, okay, so we've got the blue ones, we've got the red ones, we took those already. And now we want to get the paired meridian, which is the bladder meridian. Ooh, we got a lot coming up there. And you can see where the bladder meridian is. Interestingly enough, it runs its way along the back of the body. And don't forget that the kidneys are located in the back of the body. So they're, yes, is that correct? Yeah. The bladder is along the back, the kidney is along the front. Let me just check the kidney meridian again. So yeah, so the kidney is along the front, the bladder is along the back, and they're paired, they're very related to each other. So let's go ahead and grab the reds and grab the blues. And again, you could look at particular points, and you could wand or terahertz those particular points, which is really a very, very powerful process to do. Okay, so now we want to go back here. It also said the solfeggios. So let's go ahead to the solfeggios. And we've got 417, 396, 285, and 174. So a lot of these here, you want to supplement them by also looking at the success desk reference cards. So even though you've got quick definitions there, I would try to enhance them by looking at the success desk reference cards, which has a further elucidation about what the actual solfeggios are about. So 417 is going to be PTSD. 396 is guilt and fear. So letting go of any guilt or fear. Oh, she's not cooperating here today. All right, so letting go of any guilt and fear. And then 174 is about pain reduction, interesting. And 285 is restoring, let me just read it. This frequency helps to return tissue to its original form. 285 influences energy fields, sending them a message to restructure damaged organs. It leaves your body feeling rejuvenated and energized. So very interesting. Then let's go ahead and let's grab the spiritual protection, clearing all negative energies. So that came up. And then chakra, none of the chakras per se, but when you, the reason this can happen is because there's so few items being tested in this panel. So in that case, just take the ones that are high, the sacral chakra and the throat chakra. Okay. Now, let's see if there's anything else. Brain, Some brain stuff coming up here. All right, so let's go ahead and grab these. These are sort of the main functioning of the brain. It's hard to interpret exactly why those would be coming up. Now let's go ahead to our custom libraries and let's go ahead and test those while we maybe look at a question or two from our wonderful questions here. And let's see. How do you use the general overview? Hey, Kelly, welcome. Thanks for being here. Is the podcast still on Thursday? You just said Friday, making sure it's still on Thursday. Gosh, did I say it was on Friday? It's on Thursdays at 6:30. So yes, it's on, you're right. It's on Thursdays at 6:30. If I said that, I did definitely misspeak. How do you use the general overview? We can look at that. What is the best detox if somebody has issues with night sweats or gets hot anytime they do a detox due to possible overload on the gallbladder, liver and gallbladder? So yes, that's probably a liver. That is probably a liver issue. If they get hot anytime they do a detox, it's probably liver overload. Well, really good things. The best detox, there's lots of different detoxes. The best thing is to clean up the diet. Just go on all plant-based with, relatively low fat, not a lot of rich foods, even plant-based foods for 21 days. We have a 21 detox on the website. So if you just go to the website and you go to 21-day detox, that's a great program, really reasonably priced, gives you daily support all throughout your detox, tells you how to do it. That would be a great program to do. Also, just drinking some dandelion tea or taking dandelion throughout the day. That's another way to do it. And there's different kidney and liver cleanses. There's kidney herbs and liver herbs. Some of them are named in the Detox All the System. So we'll look at that in just a moment. Also, castor oil pack is a really helpful thing for liver stuff going on. So look into castor oil pack, how to do it. Cotton flannel, castor oil, application with a nice hot water bottle before bedtime. And that's a great way to get your detox going, as well as your typical skin brushing is another way. And if you can get to an infrared sauna, that's another way. And you really do take a lot of burden on the liver throughout your lifetime. It's really good to do something to release those toxins and help your body to process them better. Okay, so let's go ahead then and let's find specifically the detox libraries. And like I said, there's this one called Detox All the Systems, and it goes through the different systems of the body. So when you are detoxing, you want to think about a digestive cleanse, you want to think about a kidney cleanse, a liver and gallbladder cleanse, a lung and lymphatic cleanse, and microbiome cleanse, and a parasite cleanse. So I like this 10-week or Detox All the Systems series because it helps people to really focus on different parts of detox. Then there's a question here. Is it possible to search out a specific library for a client? I'm using an Apple cell phone. Would you recommend an iPad over my cell phone? Not necessarily, because they're both great. It just depends on whether you like looking on your phone or you like looking on the bigger real estate of an iPad. They both process with about the same computer processing. Is it possible to search out a specific library? Yes. You just use the search function that I just utilized, and you just start typing in. The key thing here is that now the default is on the library. So when you're focusing on a specific library, you'll see that it's checked here. When you want to search all the words, including the sub-libraries, then you click here, and it will do a search of all the libraries. We're going to stick on the libraries. Okay. Is it better to put the 2 top complaints that show on the Genius for the client rather than checking it off? Let's say the 8 that they give me. Record keeping with inside the Genius in terms of checking those off, Justina, is not really as important as you choosing the specific frequencies or panels or libraries that person needs. So it really doesn't even get taken into the algorithm. When you write that person's complaint, or you basically check it off on the checklist before you go into their session, it's just record keeping. It is not being incorporated into the algorithm or somehow incorporated into the testing. Can you show the Quanta capsule after a session how to send it? Sure, yeah, we can definitely do that. When foods are in the reds and the blues, how do we know if we should avoid them or if we should need more of that? What we have typically done, so any reds and blues in the program are, let's go ahead, we could look at food allergies. Let's see what we got in terms of time. Okay, so if we just go to food allergies, let's go to one that's pretty, we have one that's an all one. This one, let's see, the assessment, general foods, right? So this is saying, so dairy is very, very typically pointed out for people. So here, it would be foods that the person would typically be allergic to. What's down at the bottom here? Brown rice, that's surprising. Milk, but you can see you can really see the pattern here. Milk, casein, and then cottage cheese and cheddar cheese. So all of the dairy products are the ones that stand out the most. And that's probably what I recommend. The chocolate, you probably be like, well, chocolate's been said to be good and so forth. I mean, that's up for debate, but chocolate can be really irritating to the liver. So it just really depends on the person. But the one that stands out the most that I would go for eliminating first would be any dairy products for 21 days. You probably see a big improvement for the person. So this is, if it says food allergies, it's checking for the ones. But remember, everything in the Genius just indicates, the reds and the blues indicate what frequency is needed for today. So those particular frequencies up here will be beneficial. There's something that was programmed into that frequency. So even if we put it into the tray, it would be beneficial. Now you could create, we have a short library, I think, called Foods That Nourish. Let's see, foods that, I think it's a really short panel, but foods that nourish me. So Christine, if you set this one up, then these would be foods. So something about molasses is really rich in minerals. So there's something about this particular food that would be nourishing, but it's really just inherent in the frequency. There's something in that frequency that the person needs. And then you could take it a step further and say molasses, and it looks like avocado, high iron foods, non-fat yogurt, but that's weird because we saw all the dairy. So I'm not sure about that one. I might just like toss that one out. But the idea is that these are foods that would be beneficial and the other ones are foods that would be more foods to avoid, just typically based on the library, but use your common sense. All the Genius tests for is what are the frequencies in red and blue? What are the frequencies that would be beneficial for you today? Can you get more than one item in synergistic, like several salts or combined Young Living oils? Definitely. You can enter more than one frequency into synergistics to test them as a collective. So definitely. All right. Would detox be helpful for somebody with reflux? The thing that will make you, let's just go into the custom libraries for a moment and go back to that detox. The thing that will really like make you feel silly, Allison, is as a naturopath, even though you're so sophisticated, you know, all these diseases and you studied for so long, the healing overall for almost every person comes back to some basics. If you just became an expert in digestive cleansing and detox, then probably 80% of the symptoms across all the diseases would improve. It's just having studied this now for like 20 years, it all comes back to cleaning up the diet, cleaning up the gut, and detoxing the body. If you do that and then get on a good, mostly plant-based diet with like relatively low fat and whole unprocessed foods, the body's going to heal itself. It just will, because the body is a self-healing organism, right? It's of nature. It totally knows how to heal itself. We just have to remove the obstacles to cure. Now, somebody specifically with reflux, yes, cleaning up their digestion is going to help a whole heck of a lot. Most of the time, reflux is related or comes out of a rich Western diet, a diet that has things that they were taking together in food combination, too many of this, overwhelmed their stomach acid, maybe due to stress. And so they ended up with low stomach acid. And due to low stomach acid, weirdly enough, it causes the sort of the fermentation of the food in the gut for too long of a time, which gives off an organic acid, which actually ends up being the acid reflux that they're experiencing. So reflux really comes out of poor digestion. And we don't really want to take antacids because that's going to make the situation even worse. We want to really clean up the diet, get on a low-fat, plant-based, whole foods, plant-based diet with mostly unprocessed food. Do that for 21 days. Probably the reflux will completely disappear, and they will never have it again until they go back to the foods that they were eating previously. So reflux can also result in an H. pylori infection. So, they may want to look into that, but there's no doubt that a detox would definitely help, very likely to help a person with reflux. That's a really good question. And we do have, in the digestive assessment, we have some things related to reflux in the digestive health libraries, which I think you have. The digestive assessment is in there. The egg aura, is it a mirror view or reversed? Yeah, it's the same as the other aura, Cecile. It's the same as the other aura. It's the person looking at you. Do you notice an asymmetry? I always notice an asymmetry. I'd love it if you would tell the developer that that exists. So if you look at this, yeah, it's not completely centered. It's a little bit centered this way. So please write to, rw@insidehealthapps.com and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, very nice app, looks really beautiful. Don't mean to interrupt your day, but this is not even, and would really appreciate if it could be laid down symmetrically onto whatever sort of background that this is. But so you're not imagining it, but the idea is that the person is facing you. Now, one thing that I don't see here, which is a mystery to me, is we took her picture, why the picture is not coming up in the aura. So are you also, is everybody noticing that the picture is not coming up in their aura? Or is this just something related to this particular version? You can let me know in the comments. Synergistics, can it distinguish if one is resolving an issue with an energetic, or must it be a physical drug? Can it distinguish if one is resolving an issue with an energetic, or must it be a physical drug? Cheryl, I think you're gonna have to tell me more. That's a little bit hard to understand. So let's now go to our custom libraries and let's look at that detox. So if we go and we search in here and we just put in detox, let's go ahead, and now it tells us the digestive cleanse. So all the things from the digestive cleanse. Intestinal inflammation, that's a Rife frequency. Large intestine, Rife frequency for the large intestine. So there might be inflammation in the large intestine. A triphala is an Ayurvedic, it's 3 herbs that help people to cleanse in Ayurveda. So if you want to do a cleanse, you can actually go to the health food store or Amazon, and you can look for a type of herb called triphala. And it's 3 herbs in Ayurveda that have been used for cleansing. Very, very effective. I accidentally clicked on this, and I wish this wouldn't happen. I really, really wish this would be eliminated. This is a terrible feature that takes you, just a little bit of an awkward tap takes you there. Okay, so now look at the pancreas. So the pancreas also came up in digestion. And now we have pancreas, 52 hertz, which is a Rife frequency, and then pancreatic inflammation. So there's a whole sort of a sense that there's inflammation in the body for some reason. And this could be due to stress or emotions or foods, environment. And then there's a few other ones. And then we go down here. We don't see anything down here. So let's go ahead and let's go to the next one, which is kidney bladder. And there's a lot that comes up in kidney bladder, which goes hand in hand with what we discovered in the meridians. Isn't that interesting? And then we can just go through all of these. So then we have the next one, which is liver and gallbladder. Alpha lipoic acid, that's a wonderful herb, a wonderful antioxidant herb that obviously very good for the liver. Quercetin, one of the biggest recommendations for anybody concerned about the thing in the arm or getting a particular thing that causes you to have a cold, if you know what I mean. Bupleurum, a wonderful liver cleansing herb. Oregon grapefruit has wonderful berberine in there, a beautiful, a very yellow colored herb that almost reminds you, is reminiscent of bile. And that takes us to the doctrine of signatures. Okay, the lung and the lymph, so it gives us some more herbs here. So we just go through all of these and pick up the reds and the blues. And imagine we do that for all of it for time consideration. I won't do everything. And then we would go things to, let's go to menopause assessment and see if there's anything coming up here. Estrogen low, and we've got some, this comes from low progesterone, that more of the androgens tend to express themselves, and then progesterone low. So just what we expected, that estrogen is low, progesterone is low in perimenopause. And look at that melatonin. She talked about the sleep issue. And so what I typically do is I have the gals that I'm working with take melatonin for a short amount of time, a relatively high dose for like 3 weeks, but then have them withdraw or not do it, do it as a way to sort of just recalibrate that pineal gland, but not forever, because we want to give the power back to the brain and the body to produce its own levels of melatonin. So it's a weird kind of thing. You let the body rest and recalibrate and then go back into its own rhythm of producing melatonin. Hypothalamus estradiol need, that's E2 or the weaker form of estrogen. So isn't that interesting? Let's look at some of the solutions, which is coming up in blue. Bifidus, again, now I really like in the Genius when we see the echoes. And so this came up when we were talking about the digestive system in system overview. And borage is the precursor to progesterone. And look at this. This is what I said in the beginning. Atribulus is the precursor to testosterone. And here's some natural progesterone cream. So this is all, what I talked about even before we started testing, which is nice. If you're a naturopath or a nutritionist, you probably had this experience. So a lot of the things we talked about are being confirmed or affirmed by the Genius itself. So these are probably very good recommendations then. And then we've got maca, which is for the pituitary, indole 3-carbinol, which helps to give us more healthy estrogen metabolism. Black cohosh, that's the other herb that I recommend. So I definitely say that this issue where you're talking about a little bit of change in the weight is related to hormonal changes, and working on detox, liver, and hormones with your Genius, and maybe also with some other things, supplements and herbs, could be very, very helpful. There's that probiotic again. So I wonder if you had a history of taking antibiotics, because the probiotics come up big time, or maybe you just need sort of a recalibration. So let's go ahead and do some balancing. When using the remedy plate, do we add only the reds and blues that show up, or can we add a whole library, such as the gemstones or all the Bach flowers? It's always so interesting. You could see Kelly's thinking of putting a lot of things on the synergistics and testing them at one time. And then Wendy's thinking, well, I don't want to waste any time. I just want to put all of these energies together. So it's interesting that people in our community are thinking similarly. This mullein is actually for the lungs. That's interesting that that's coming up. And then lungs right here. So we may need to incorporate some yogic breathing. Whoa, and then a lot of things are coming up very, very high. Now, Beth, if you know your email address for your Quanta capsule, if you have one, we could show or demonstrate for Karen that export to the Quanta capsule. Kidney function optimized, 285 hertz black cohosh, alpha lipoic acid for the liver. Aloe ferrex is a great, it can be a great parasite cleanser, and just an overall large intestine cleanser, which the inflammation came up in the large intestine. So that's interesting. Let's turn that timer down to just 1 minute. Let's maybe turn the sound down a little bit if we need to, and let's see if we can play those frequencies. Okay. Now back to your questions. So when using the remedy plate, do we only add the reds and the blues that show up, or can we add a whole library? So now I'm not sure in asking that question if what you want to do is you want to put all of those into a gemstone, or do you want to put it into water? Is it that you want to put all the frequencies into a media, or you want to imprint them? I'm assuming you want to, because you're talking about reds and blues. So yes, you can imprint an entire library into a gemstone, into a bracelet. And those, we often create like a generic testing client, like you just call it client X or mystery client or generic client or testing client. And that's what you put in as the name. And then you basically can choose whatever you want, like an entire library, like the Australian bush essences. And you could put all of those flower essences into a band that you just sell generically, like on your website, to the general public who may want to utilize all the flower essences at one time, as opposed to a personalized bracelet. So 54%, she got a great response. Let's go ahead and peek at the change in the aura from that. And we'll probably do a little bit more balancing, but while we're answering questions. What if you don't have a gallbladder? How can you support your liver through detox? Well, gallbladder and liver are two separate two separate organs. And the gallbladder is simply just a pouch that is there to take the water out of the bile, concentrate it, and store it. That's all that we do. Wow, look at that. Let's bring Beth back on. So Beth, go ahead and come back and join me there and see what are your thoughts about, whoops, I may have just stopped it. So you go ahead and start it. I'll let you take care of all of the things. Yeah. All right. So what were your thoughts as we were doing our testing?
Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah, no, it's great. I do take, the only thing I was thinking was I take a lot of probiotics. So I don't know, maybe I'm overdoing it.
Yeah, that's possible too. That is sometimes what you're getting is maybe just to take a break from it or to switch it up. Maybe try something new, maybe try a new strain. Maybe there's some strain that you've actually adapted to. You need to try something different.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah, and Lactobacillus acidophilus is different from Bifidus. And so maybe it's one that contains a more of a majority of Bifidus, the bifidobacterium, as opposed to Lactobacillus acidophilus, because the bifidobacterium is specifically for inflammation, which was coming up. So it may be more of that composition and mix that you need to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a lot of inflammation, like a lot of joint pain. I do work out a lot, pretty hard, but, and so I tend to have that constant inflammation, and it's a bit of a battle. So that was all really like spot on.
Excellent. Well, I think maybe reviewing what we talked about today will be really helpful. And then in your balancing, focusing on hormones and adrenal, kidney meridian, bladder meridian, and I still would focus on frequencies for the thyroid. I still think that'll be helpful as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being part of our class today.
I did send my email. So if you wanted
Oh, good. Yes, I will send you because I want to show how we can send those frequencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know she could do that. Okay, thank you so much. And we see a beautiful aura. What I wanted to say about this aura is the return to vital force. So she's gone right into first chakra, and it's a nice, strong red. So she's kind of returned to a place of more vital force, meaning working on that kidney meridian, I think, is going to be really important. So the kidney meridian is sort of embodying that adrenal cortisol stuff, is going to help you to feel like you have more vital force, feel like you have more energy. We also see the digestive issue clear up. So let's look at the before and after. We go to our photos here and we see before and after. Before and after. So I even think this is a little bit better up here, and just beautiful colors. A lot of the green and the yellow has cleared away. A beautiful purple coming through, being more the sixth chakra, which is about the pineal gland, and then seventh chakra up here. So it's looking really, really good. We only did really like a minute of balancing, but we have this in our heads that takes so much time to make a change, but the Genius does work very, very quickly. So we're going to go a little bit over time, probably till about a quarter past the hour, 15 minutes after the hour. Let's get some of your other questions. So let's do a rescan here. And rescan means we peel the onion, we go to a deeper layer. Whatever has been balanced in a minute now sort of percolates off, and now we go to a deeper layer. And now we're seeing, interesting, estradiol, which is E2, one of the weaker estrogens. And when we do bioidentical hormone replacement, we do a part E2 and E3. We don't use estrone, which is the strongest estrogen, but we do use 80% estriol, 20% estradiol. Chlorella is a wonderful green that's very good for heavy metal detox and good for liver cleansing. Kidney 3, 417, releasing any PTSD. Cardiovascular, again, that the inflammation for the large intestine, coming up to clear it. And then see a few other things, some kidney points and so forth. But a lot of things coming up here. Absolutely amazing. So let's do for another minute, and then I'm going to show you the rescan. The final, usually we do 3 times, but we do rescan, balance, rescan, balance, rescan, and then we'll send that last set on the third rescan, because that will be the deepest layer for them, or the deepest that we've sort of found for them. And that'll be really good for them to work on for 7 days, because we went to something a bit deeper. Is there a protocol for chronic fatigue? Yeah, that's something, let's think about that. We do have the Epstein-Barr harmonizing programs. That's one obvious one, but let's maybe work on that. Maybe not next week, but the week after that. That's a good request, because next week we're going to do blood sugar. After that, we could do sort of chronic viruses / chronic fatigue, because it's most often due to the expression of Epstein-Barr, weirdly enough. Questions on the spine? Okay, so Pat, I love your question, but I've already can see it's a technical bug issue. So you can either, you can write it to me, support@geniusbiofeedback.com, or report it directly to the developer, your choice. Eventually it's going to cross the developer's desk one way or the other. So let's go ahead back and let's look at that aura again for fun and see how the aura has changed. Okay. Okay, I have birth control, estrogen exposure contributing, resonate on 2 young girls, one only 8 years old and the other one 16. Wow, look at this aura coming through. That is absolutely crazy. Look at that, beautiful. So this tells us about the progression of auras can be from going from sort of a low vital force to a very strong. There's much more sign of that vital force coming through. You know, if you go back to the recording that we did on the kidneys and the Chinese meridians over the past 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of recordings, I highly recommend, especially, I think it was last week when I talked more about the kidney meridian, that kidney meridian holds a lot of important sort of like the clinical pearls that you would talk about. And so if you use that kidney meridian, so for almost every person that you're working with, because every person has been through stress, it can be really life-changing. So let's look. Number 1, number 2, I took this twice. Let's just delete one of them. Yeah. And number 3. Wow, Beth, fantastic response. Let's look at it again. 1, 2, and 3. Really beautiful. Just one thing you're just seeing is really that vital force coming through. So responsive and nice in response. As I'm talking, there was a question, Beth, if you're still on, about what you're using for sleep. So if you want to put it in the chat, you know, you could put it into the chat. It might just be easier just so for time for me to answer the rest of these questions. Let's go ahead and let's do one more rescan. So we're going to do another rescan. And as we do that last rescan, then we'll export the frequencies that come up. Now, Pat, going back to your question about the spine, I think I have an idea. Oh, that's so funny. Look at the lactobacillus acidophilus did come. You know, the other thing that's totally possible, even though I gave it my best rendition about bifidus, is that it is not enough or it's not strong enough. Try to find a naturopathic grade probiotic. I forgot to didn't even think of this when you said you were taking a lot of it. We did this testing when I was in naturopathic college, one of my mentors, and he found that the store-bought, even I hate to say it, the Whole Foods, the health food store, there was no probiotic. It was just like powder and there were no strains in there. So look for a naturopathic grade. The one that I like is Claire Labs. I'm going to put it into the chat here. So I like one called Claire Labs. And there's also another one from the Seattle area, which is called Interplexus. These are all very reputable probiotics. And there's one more, but I don't know if you can find it these days, which is Genestra. Okay, so you could check those out. But yeah, just it's hard to do that and know if you're doing the right thing. Let's do one more minute here. And let's see what we've got. I think I know what might be going on with the spine, so give me a moment to get there. Okay, so neither one is taking birth control. Would this possibly indicate that is being put into the food chain? What are your thoughts? Yes. Remember, Lisa, that when you get something as a frequency, so the frequency that she got was birth control, estrogen exposure contributing. I would take off the birth control and I would just look at the estrogen exposure contributing, because things related to the genius, it's the essence that you're looking for. How is the essence of that frequency? How could it be represented? How could it be, what could be true about this? Because you really only need the frequency. Like something about that frequency was beneficial. But yeah, it could easily Why do young girls that are 8 years old or 10 years old start their period at 10 in today's world? Terrible. It's because of all the estrogen exposure that they're getting through their food and through the environment, and plastics, in pesticides, and of course in chicken, fish, beef, and so forth. So we got 48% rectification. Let's go back and let's look at the aura. It was much more defined. Now, this one might be changed because we might go into a deeper layer now, but let's just see what the ending aura is here. See if there's any change from that last minute. And yeah, I was worried that was going to happen. For some reason, I was like, don't test your luck. So why does it go black now? Why does it go dark? So when we're going through a series, right? And even it could even be the response of seeing the aura, like, oh, I can't get that. I can't get better that fast. I couldn't have made that much progress, right? So, but a lot of times it's because we actually we're going up. So we're going not feeling good. And then we're moving the energy up, and then we're moving the energy up. And we get to a certain place, and then it's sort of, we go back in for the deeper piece of it. And it seems like it's awful. It seems like we're retrograding, but we're really not. We're just going into a deeper place. I kind of had this gut feeling that I should have just stuck with this one. But I really wanted, wanted to do, rather than actually show another aura, is I really wanted to go back in and show the export to the quantum capsule. So this is not necessarily a bad thing. This can be a transition period. And remember, when you go deeper into a valley, you're going to come up a lot higher. So this could be a purging of toxins. It can be a lot. Remember, even when you do these energetic detoxes, please remember to drink a lot of water. Even if you're just using the Genius and you think you wouldn't have to drink a lot of water, remember to drink water. So let's look at the export to the quantum capsule. We're going to go high, export to quantum capsule, and then I'm probably not going to be able to find this email. Let me just see if it's in the chat here. Can you? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we'll put it in here. Oh, I always do that. That's not logical. That add my member is not logical. So let's do that. And so that's going to export all of the high items. It's pretty easy actually to export to the quantum capsule. Karen, let me know if I didn't answer some of your questions. All right. Okay, I would love a quick run through of how the synergistics works. Deborah, come back to class and ask that at the beginning of class for next Monday. I'd love to go through it with you. All right. Question, Dr. Ariel, when looking at the library's bone marrow comes in red like 700, what does that mean? Good, bad? Thank you. So 700 always means that you need the frequency for some reason. So if bone marrow is 700, like I said, then it's saying that you need the frequency for bone marrow. That would be beneficial for you for today. Does it mean that there's something seriously going wrong in the bone marrow? Not necessarily. But why don't you just go to Google and put in bone marrow health, wellness of the bone marrow, and learn more about what the bone marrow is and what it does. It's, related to the immune system. Can synergistics inform the success or healing for a disease? Can be addressed by taking a drug orally, or can be addressed by energetically consuming it. So yeah, you could go to synergistics. Let's go ahead and do it while I'm talking at the same time anyway. And go to synergistics, and you could just be very specific. So synergistics is accessed through the extra modules, and we go to synergistics and it gives us this. It tells us place the item on the test plate. Oh my goodness. Okay. Or just type it in here. So we're going to type it in and we're going to say ivermectin as taken only. I wish I had my keyboard ready here. Taken, ask ask actually is, if that is in red, Does that mean that spell check is now here? Does spell check working here now? Does anybody know if these are in red? Does that mean that you can tap on it? That looks like maybe it is. Are there spell check recommendations now? Somebody can tell me in the chat. Only energetically, because I was going to say that would be a nice thing for us to have. So ivermectin taken only energetically for active issue. So that would be how you would phrase it. And then you would see, well, she doesn't have an active issue per se, but if she did, that's saying, would we use ivermectin for this? How much of the circles fill up? And so this would not be, she doesn't really need ivermectin right now from what obviously she's well, but the idea would be that's how you would phrase it. Boy, I love that you guys brought all the questions. What kind of a bracelet or band can be used with imprinting with a remedy plate? Any type of band. What we have now is we have silicone bands that have holograms on them because that's going to pick up the frequency and hold the frequency. Okay, so why bone conduction headphones? All right, these are good questions. We could do a lot more extensive review of them and talk about them. Also, we could talk about them on the podcast, Karen. But bone conduction headphones are the reason that we've recommended them is because they articulate with the cranial bones. So you get a physical connection to the frequencies as well as an audio connection to the frequencies. The other benefit for people who like to listen to frequencies all throughout the day is that your bone conduction goes around the ears rather than over the ears, so you can do other things, listen to music, talk to people, go through your day while you're listening to the frequencies. In the summit, the developer said the fuzzy area at the top of the aura was energy coming in, and think you interpret energy going out. Clarification. I don't remember him saying anything about the aura in the summit. I'll have to go back and review that. But I think in or out, it's sort of, potato as far as that's concerned. I don't think it's that significant. Its energy is leaking. The ironic part, even though this looks, I don't know, this looks dark, but it could be that she's working on her vital force. There's something that could be very good about this, but look at the difference here in all of the pictures. It's really interesting is that there's a lot more containment around that aura. Sorry, I'm going to go a little bit long. So if you need to hop off, totally understand. You can watch the recording, but let me just go a little bit long to the logical end here. Fuzzy, getting much better. Look how much crisper that is. And then look at this one. So it's like the edges are more defined as we've gone through them. I think the bands are more defined as we've gone through them. So in or out doesn't matter. We just talked about it leaking, that the energy is going to somewhere, but the energy could just as easily be coming in. I don't know how, I wouldn't worry so much about was it coming in or coming out, going in, or I wouldn't worry so much about that. Okay. Is it possible to create a library in your native language? Of course, anybody can create a library in any language. And of course, it's fantastic. My aura was always very tight, never large or like the center of the examples of this I've seen. Candy, that might have to do with where maybe you're testing on an Android versus an Apple. Send me an example, support@geniusbiofeedback.com. One of my sources are from Microbiome Labs. They offer great educational videos. I don't know anything about Microbiome Labs, so I couldn't comment at all. Are soil-based organisms something that you like and recommend? I haven't used a lot of soil-based organisms, so once again, I cannot comment. So, but if you like them and they resonate for you for gut flora, then go for it. I use the Sleep Deeply panel, which is really good for me, and the brain waves and the alpha high and low. That's from Beth, whoever asked about what she's doing for sleep. Oh, okay. I can't post to everyone. I see what happened there to host and panelists. I wish I could change that. If anybody knows how to change that setting, we're trying to read about it on Zoom, which is the most confusing thing to read ever. Okay. I'd like to know when to use the Geo harness, maybe a podcast or a future class. So I do want to say some things about the wristbands. So the wristbands are something that you could purchase, geniusbiofeedback.com. You could look at the wristbands. The wristbands are good. They only go from the genius to the person. They're not evaluative. They don't go from the person to the genius or test in any way, shape, or form. My experience over the years, let me just go ahead and I'm going to turn the video off for 1 second. My experience over the years is that people get the wristbands and then they sit in a corner. They don't use them. That most people these days don't want to be connected to wristbands. They want a wireless experience, and also that the genius works through sound, and sound integrates with the central nervous system. So sound integrates with your brain, with the left and right side of your brain. So I firmly believe after all these years that sound is the very best way to receive the genius frequencies. However, we do have the wristbands. This is what they look like. They come in a package like this, okay? And we can take them out and look at them and see what they look like and just talk a little bit about them briefly. Okay, this is one of our wristbands, and it has the flower of life on the back, and it's an energy that is produced. Apparently there's some neodymium aspect to this, comes through and goes. You could use it right, obviously on the wrist, but you could use it somewhere on a meridian point. Again, my experience is that people use it for a short time, but they would really prefer walk around, do other things, multitask. And since they have to be wire connected, most people don't like that. They don't want to be connected through the wire. What library would you recommend to eliminate a small basal carcinoma on the face? Anything that's related to that, you have to think of the origin. We went over this a lot in healing chronic cases in practitioner level 2. It started with the gut. That started with the liver. It started in the diet with lack of antioxidants and things that would help to like repair the DNA. And so you have to go back to that, clean up the gut, get lots of juices, antioxidants back into the body. And then I would work with the skin libraries. We have specific, I think we even have skin. Yeah, we have like skin repair libraries. All right, I think I missed a bunch of them. So let's just grab the ones from Q&A. Can you review how to use a specific library like weight loss frequencies for a session, please? Well, Linda, we won't have time for that right now, so definitely ask it next time. But to cut to the chase, it's really, you just want to use the reds and the blues in the library. I'd love to know what I could do to detox post-COVID. I had it in December and half of January, followed by the frontline protocol. I'm non-jab and never had it before, and all this time got it. You know, my suspicion is that for people who are non-jab, that it maybe even challenges the immune system, that maybe activates Epstein-Barr. And I think that could be what long haul COVID is, actually, that your immune system flipped or was challenged in such a way that it allowed some of those herpetic viruses to emerge. So I'd look at the Epstein-Barr harmonizing. Can you show synergistics? We just did synergistics. Do you know the so-and-so products? Best fiber I've ever used, really straighten out my colon. How can you review how to check supplements? You could put supplements into, Linda, have you gone through the basic training class that you have in your learning portal? So try that basics class as well, because some of these questions are covered in there. And gosh, we did work a while on that main training program. But to answer your question just right here in class, is that to test products, you could put them into synergistics to see if they're biocompatible. So if you just go to the synergistics that we just showed, you could put the supplement right in there. So if we go back here and we just show synergistics, okay? So if we show synergistics, you could put any of the products that you want in there and see how biocompatible they are for you based on how many circles get filled in. I'm not going to comment on specific lines. There's a million lines of supplements out there. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great. And if I haven't had a chance to evaluate, it doesn't make any sense for me to comment.
How much do toxins play a role in premature menopause or menopause in general? Premature menopause, that sounds like that isn't telling me very much. I don't know what you mean premature. You mean if people go into early menopause? That, I don't know, somehow that's genetic. I think that's really related. I really hear from different people who have gone into menopause at different times, the same time that their mother went into menopause. So the whole thing with hormonal balance is that you're balancing mostly estrogen and progesterone, and that a lifestyle that doesn't have a lot of xenoestrogens, so a lot of heavy in the meat, heavy in the milk, heavy in the cheese, heavy in the dairy, those things are going to bring in the most xenoestrogens. And then a life filled with stress will decrease your available amounts of progesterone because it competes with the raw materials that support your adrenals. And it's just very, very simple lifestyle adjustments that will help the hormones to be balanced. And we went over a lot of that in the practitioner program on hormones, which is like practitioner level 4. Do you recommend a headphone brand or model for our frequencies? No, not necessarily. Just go out and get the best headphones that you can for the best sound experience. We do have the bone conduction headphones on the website, and for lots of people who got their packages during the holidays, those are always included with different specials or bonuses that we do. I just want to check here and see if there's probably a couple things that I missed. So I do want to show the thing about the spine, and then we'll just take a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So Pat had a question about the spine, and besides it being a bug, I think I may know what's going on. So if you go, Pat, to the spine, and I had this comment to Ryan where I'm like, well, where is the high to low? This is really aggravating. I only see it in anatomical order from the cervical down to the lumbar or the coccyx, right? And so he's like, well, it's right here. It's actually right here from 100 to 0. So you just tap right here. Is that the one that you're tapping on? Because that will take you from high to low, basically. Right now, it's from the highest to the lowest, and you could flip it around and it could go from low to high. So Pat, let me know if you've actually done that. And if that's not working, then that would be a bug. What was the name of the vitamin D company you mentioned? It's called Biotics. Okay, you want a review of the accessories? Okay, that's a good idea. We'll do a class on that. What are your favorite frequencies for bladder issues? Well, we do have the bladder, the radionic rates. So we actually have a good bladder library. And so you could check that one out on the website. If somebody goes into menopause in their 20s, yeah, I think that's genetic. I mean, the main reason for early menopause is hysterectomy. So, but if they went into menopause early, that's either genetic or it's some type of serious stress, other illness that they have. That's the most common. Speaking of sound, every morning I've been waking up hearing chimes like the Genius. I think that just means you're listening to a lot of frequencies. All right. So thank you very much for the excellent questions. Thank you very much to Beth for volunteering today. Bring your great questions to every class, because a lot of your questions, if somebody's asking it, somebody else was thinking about it. So I absolutely love your questions. If I didn't answer today, please, put it right at the front for next week or send it to me in a message. And we'll work on maybe an accessories class. And in the Thursday podcast, we'll talk more about V-Clear and V-Shed. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.